We face deep problems, some cyclic, like economic downturns, some unprecedented, like global climate change, and new threats to security from technologically enabled disgruntled groups, not to mention homegrown violent loners. We Americans seem hopelessly stalemated in our politics, conservatives against liberals, Republicans against Democrats. Yet in historical terms, we disagree less than we think. Let's take a test. Answer some questions just for yourself, if you don't mind. Ask yourself the following questions. Do you believe in fascism, communism, aristocracy, royalism, or theocracy? That is, do you think we should have a one-party state with no free elections, or rule by those who inherit wealth, or rule by the children of whoever ruled last, or rule by the unelected clerics of somebody's church? Do you believe that the power of government in the majority should not be limited? Should there be no individual rights guarantees, as in the Bill of Rights? Do you believe unequal rewards and socioeconomic advantages, no matter how achieved, are intrinsically unjust? That is, do you believe the community, using government as a tool, should make it impossible for some to achieve differential success and remove any distinct advantages anyone has to redistribute them to others? If not, do you believe that government should play no role whatsoever in redistributing income or regulating professions or establishing agencies to provide resources to people? That is, do you believe all public schools and public hospitals should be closed? That government should not license neurosurgeons or regulate nuclear power plants? That it's wrong for anyone who is wealthier to be obligated to contribute in any way to any of their poorer neighbors' welfare in any respect? Should the children of the poor be permitted to expire on the steps of hospitals for want of ability to pay? Do you believe government should close our borders and adopt policies that locate power among particular ethnic or racial groups, like yours? Would you feel comfortable with rulers as long as they look like yourself, or perhaps even have the same religion, even if they were to wield authoritarian power? Do you believe that no private citizen anywhere, including Inuit and Native Americans and others who live in remote areas, or those who have been the victim of violent crimes in the past, should be able to own any firearm for hunting or for self-defense? Do you believe that there should be no restrictions, regulations, delays, or background checks on anyone's ability to purchase any kind of gun of any size and capacity that might be used by, say, the military, and carry it anywhere at any time in any way without restriction, like to the high school dance? Now, how many of you answered yes to any of these questions? How many people do you know personally who you think would answer yes to more than one? But why do we Americans in particular seem at such loggerheads? We were in a period of democratic ascendancy, I'm referring to the Democratic Party, with minor deviations from 1932 to 1980. We were in a period of increasing, but not extreme conservatism from 1980 to 2000, then exacerbated by 9/11. As I said before, public opinion will always and forever swing back and forth on a pendulum between more or less government intervention, action, and regulation. Right now, the pendulum is oscillating in teeny little arcs right around the center line. We have intensely passionate disagreement among people on a relatively narrow spectrum. Practically centrist, we are rhetorically extreme. True believers and activists on each side can envision capturing the Holy Grail and feel little need to compromise. No one wants to accept a disadvantage, believing others will be suffering less. Our 24/7 multiple-headed mainstream and social media overact immediately to anything, anywhere, faster than you can say knee-jerk. Now, every political theory or view that has been held by enough people for us to know its name has at least one plausible argument in its favor, including fascism and communism. The point is not to settle for or close our minds after one argument, but to see the bunch of arguments on both sides and weigh the lot of them against each other. But in contemporary media politics, saying, yes, the view I oppose has several arguments for it, but on balance, I think, saying that is political suicide. The other side will trumpet the headline, politician Smith agrees with his opposition. It seems to me these conditions make for a more extreme version of an illness of which liberal Republican societies, and perhaps particularly the United States, have often been accused. No social unity or felt need to compromise short of disaster. In disaster, we pull together. It would be nice if we could do it without waiting for that point. Furthermore, not only do we have more in common than we allow, we have weathered far worse threats than we face today, even with international terrorism. Remember, totalitarian governments controlled the center of Europe for more than half of the 20th century, 1933 to 1989. And during most of that time, massive nuclear area bombing of hundreds of millions of people was planned for as an imminent possibility by all the world's great powers until 1989. Let us not forget just how bad the recent past was. The conflict with Islamic terrorists is far less dangerous, for at this point, they are not in control of a modern state. Indeed, most Islamic states are hostile to their own inner extremists. I'm not saying this situation isn't difficult and dangerous. I am saying if extremists hostile to all free societies and dedicated to expansion had one or two of the largest states on earth with thousands of nuclear weapons at their disposal, would that be worse? Yes. Well, that was the 20th century. So let's calm down and count some blessings. The real question that remains is, will the liberal Republican model stand up to and fruitfully address the problems its ever-modernizing society will create? In 1929 to 1945, the political processes of several European republics and their leaders were indeed not up to the challenges their modernizing societies presented them. So many people fled to radical ideologies because liberal capitalist republicanism wasn't working, didn't seem to be able to hack it. That could happen again, albeit in a different form. Will we be able to respond to future crises, adapting to novelty while retaining what's best in our tradition? Right now, it appears that the globe is warming and that our activities are probably responsible for warming it with unforeseeable consequences. Can our system respond to that challenge? The one thing we know for sure about the future is that it will bring the unexpected. On September 10th, 2001, who would have thought that the most deadly foreign attack on American soil since the War of 1812 would come not from Russian or Chinese ICBMs, but from religious zealots armed with box cutters? It was Edmund Burke who said, "A state without the means of some change is without the means of its preservation." Figuring out how to manage those changes means doing political philosophy. Some have suggested that we approach the end of philosophy, a point at which its possibilities have all been run through, and its whole foundational project is spent and illegitimate. But it's very hard to imagine an end to political philosophy. One might as well try to imagine people sailing a ship who have no interest in where it's going. Because we are, most of us, on that ship of modern Republican politics, and its planks and beams and scaffolding are made of the ideas and institutions that we depend on and use every day. And to repeat a metaphor of the philosopher Otto Neurath's, which was meant for science, but it's just as true of politics, we have to repair and patch our ship while at sea. Now, in this course, we've tried to gain some more familiarity with the ideas the ship is made of, what it can do and what it can't do, the directions it's been steered in, the storms it's weathered, so we can better understand how to keep it in good repair, figure out where we can and can't sail it. It's up to us. And so, the experiment continues. Friends and fellow travelers, thank you for listening, and good sailing.